everyone. We are live at Hammer City Records at the soon-to-be excavated, evacuated, evicted Hammer City Records. But we're here. We have some good Hamilton artists and musicians, and then freeloaders like myself here tonight. This is Darrell Epp. Darrell is a poet. You're like a professional poet from Hamilton.
Pretty much, yeah.
You've done 3 books, and you have a 4th book.
Yeah, my 4th book, Mechanical Monkeys, comes out in March.
Mechanical Monkeys is out in March. Wow, Jesus! And you won the poetry award for last year for Hamilton.
Yeah, last November. My last book of poetry was declared the best book of poetry written for that year in the city of Hamilton.
Okay, well that's pretty good. I mean it's not like Prettiest Girl in the Leper Colony. It's actually there's a lot of good Hamilton poets. So it's actually, and also I love your poems. I don't understand how poems work. I couldn't write one. Is it like a part of your brain that like you have to be in like the right mind frame to do it?
You have to go into a trance, kind of.
Yeah.
I studied writing for a long time, and I had my big breakthrough when I threw away my education and said, I only want to write stuff that I don't know how to write.
Yeah.
Because I always believe that if I'm surprised, there's a better chance the reader is going to be surprised.
Yeah. Okay. There is a lot of poems. A lot of poems bury me. A lot of your poems bury me. A lot of them I am stunned at the end of them. I couldn't write one. I've tried before to write poems. I write all the time. I couldn't possibly. I can write songs for bands. I couldn't possibly write a poem. So I have no idea how you do it. It's like a magic trick for me.
Okay.
But I enjoy. So you have a few tonight. You are from Hamilton.
Well, I've lived in Hamilton in Ward 3 since 1991.
Holy smokes! Yeah, I've been here. I've been here 15 years. So you've been here 30 years?
I guess almost. Yeah.
Wow. So you've been here twice as long as I have. Which yeah, that's pretty impressive. I'm gonna turn off the fan.
Sure. Okay.
So we can hear you a little bit better, and I'm gonna let you do what you do, and I'm gonna like stop.
And keep track of my time.
Okay. It's not like the Gong Show. We're not gonna have like a hook. We won't have a hook. You will have. I will keep track, but don't worry too much. It's not gonna be. It's the. You're not. It's not made to order. Okay. So.
Okay. Thanks a lot for having me. This is a poem called Love is Magic. We suffered from a lack of common reference points. I mean, her mother was a witch. My mother sold cosmetics to her friends, carved sandwiches into perfect tiny triangles. No one wanted to burn her at the stake, but who wouldn't love a witch in the house, especially if Hollywood's been telling us the truth. Failing grades, mysteriously born again as A+, club feet and sour milk for everyone who looks at you funny. The chest-swelling pride that comes with the secret knowledge. Maybe when you get to the end, you start fresh with a new baton, new maps, new paintings on the walls of the Motel 6. Or maybe just an inkling, a Lotterio ticket, and the sound of your own echo as you sing your way out of the Hall of Mirrors. Hello, walls. I wish you were a door. Watch me now. I've been practicing. Okay. And this is a poem called Wolfman. And it's dedicated to Lon Chaney Jr. And yeah, my shadow was a wolf that looked like Dad. The atmosphere wore a white medical smock. A mad scientist peered down the barrel of the double helix and created a lab rat with giant mastodon tusks just to prove he could do it. That look you gave the waiter should morph sand into glass, but your bracelet should be worth a lot more now since we've murdered the coral reefs with sewage and plastics. That's the good news. The bad news is on his way. Or already here and lurking behind an artificial palm tree. Sometimes I think my voice sounds like a robot. One day I'd like to wake up a human and fully alive. There's a few things I'd have to do first. We gave a meth head $1, wondered where his tribe will go when gentrification makes us all real estate millionaires. Dunville, out past the Grand River, the hypodermics were in full bloom. Heavenly arms rocked us like a mother. Once upon a time, there was a girl. We held each other in the dark. And this is a poem about DeFasco, which is an abbreviation for Dominion Foundry and Castings Company, founded by Mr. Sherman in 1912. Was a waterfall named after him, which I recommend you visit. It's called DeFasco Dawn. Tiptoeing along the rusty catwalk, jittery from the night shifter pills, I thought it was the sun, but it was a glowing slag heap waiting its turn. Somehow, I got everything upside down again. We transmuted mineral resources into products, chased the ace, counted cards, hypnotized ourselves in the flickering arc lights, the blowtorches of the TIG and MIG welders, sold our souls for a Ponzi scheme. Map and territory, word and idea, bound together with knitting needles and yarn. The holy pulse behind it all, I felt it, and the spaces between. And this is a poem about getting laid off from DeFasco. And it's called Requiem for Steel. Dreamed of crazy eights back at the tin mill. Dreamed we still had a tin mill, but now it's cheaper to roll slabs in Brazil, or almost anywhere but here. Head office is in Luxembourg, or Mumbai. It's called amalgamation, the planetary consolidation of steel. My hand still hurts from Comic-Con. The cosplay parade slowed down traffic. I was in a mood, punched in my hazard lights, and started picking fights with masked Avengers, obese Klingons. Lucky if I don't get sued. And my real anger wasn't for them. It was for our blind technocrats herding us off the stage to join the Neanderthals, leaving all our strivings as a legacy for unborn cyborgs. Coal dust from the mines, just diamonds under pressure, like retraining for customer service or hunting for scrap metal and copper because the pension fund's insolvent. Natural gas fires carve out a memorial tattoo. The arc light's prism still calls to us like the song of the sirens. And this is a poem called Fragmentation Grenade. Gave Gerald the $40, but he never gave me the 2 caps he promised. Just old jokes and crackpot theories about gravity strings and leprechauns, subcutaneous microchips and falling angels. I'd still prefer the 2 caps. I want hard results, an explosion in slow motion, reducing me down to a gaggle of singing shrapnel. So much for summer's hydrocodone. Lick the bag, make a wish. A ghost is always stuck in that moment before the paint dries, that hour before the luggage clears customs. Squeaky cloud cogs, sci-fi Lego sky, bramble and thistle sabotaging the construction site, stuttering pirate parrot, the courtroom drama's shocking twist, the beat cop just looking to make the quota. How close we come to mystery, with only algorithm standing between being human or a Burger King beef cow. Moo.
Thank you very much. Daryl will be back in a little bit. So you did the last couple poems were. It seemed like gentrification came up a little bit. It seems like it's a little bit like with Hamilton. It's like hard to avoid.
Yeah.
It's sort of slithers its way into like your thoughts and like nightmares and just like.
Yeah, my dreams, sure. When I did my first book, I wrote about my own life a lot.
Yeah.
Naturally enough. And then when I got my second book deal, I said, one thing I know, I don't want to do that. So I said, what's another big theme to talk about? And I thought the way your physical environment affects your mental landscape would be a good way to go. And I was always a fan of writers of plays like Faulkner, who had like 22 novels set in that fictional county.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it just so happened that Hamilton is a really interesting place for all sorts of reasons. And I thought, why not use my book as a way to document the changes going on in Ward 3, where I live. And there are some big changes. Yeah, it's funny. For me, the top of the mountain is always Anton Chekhov, and by far, and he's a great example of the more specific you get, the more universal you get. And you might not be a cobbler in Siberia, but you can automatically connect to him because he's talking about loss, regret, being ravaged by the passage of time, all these things, right? And one time I did a poetry reading in Cardiff, Wales, which is probably my favorite reading I ever did. And when I went up to the microphone, I realized all the stack of poems I brought were all about DeFasco. So I said, oh, well, bear with me, whatever, I'm here. And at the end of it, they were crying because they said the same thing had happened there, where Gordon Brown had found a way to circumvent the tariffs so that you could drive from Cardiff to Pontypridd to Swansea and just see miles and miles of padlocked factories.
Yeah.
And and then last year I did a reading in Dunkirk, New York, and some people were from Syracuse who were talking about what happened when Bethlehem Steel shut down there. So it was really thrilling to see about how with art you could cut through the small talk and the BS and automatically talk about what's really important to people. So what's happening in Hamilton is happening in other places. And I don't know what to say about it or what the magic cure is. Maybe you know.
I would say that helps to know that, though, because I have found, like, you know, all this shit that was going on in Hamilton, it was overwhelming for me personally, and I started hearing about, you know, it's happening in this city, and you start, like, I mean, you can search any city you think of in North America, you can search, Google, housing crisis, you know, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or something, and it'll come up, because everybody's going through the same, it's this kind of artificial, kind of top-down, sort of engineered housing crisis that's happening everywhere, and then gentrification, all this stuff. So I think that, yeah, it definitely helps. It definitely helps to know. I mean, it's a little bit overwhelming to know that it's going on everywhere, but it definitely helps to know that it's not just here, and it's not just we're sort of doomed. But I think that, yeah, I guess the solution for it's going to have to be everywhere. I guess my last question would be, how do you keep your mental real estate, you know, from being completely invaded by it? Like, how do you this is maybe just a personal question for myself or my therapist, but I mean, like, how do you keep your brain on art and on beauty and all the things that matter?
Well, I'd recommend prayer. But it's kind of funny. I remember I was being interviewed once and someone commented on all the pop culture references in my work, as if that was unique or something remarkable. And I'm like, what planet do you live on? Because the fact is, if I want to talk about 2020, writing some parlor room drama like a Henry James novel just wouldn't be the way to go. No offense to Henry James or whatever. And the fact is, we are all swimming in this sea of pop culture detritus, and our mental landscape is colonized by billionaires in Hollywood, and there's no way around it, and it wouldn't be fun to deny it. And one thing I found really helpful is I had a love, ever since I was a little kid, of the surrealists, particularly Rene Magritte, who would take objects that weren't that were very ordinary, and just put them in an extraordinary spot. Like, what if a guy had a toaster on his head instead of a hat?
Yeah.
And just by taking ordinary things and putting them in and recontextualizing them, it made normal things like tables and chairs seem spooky and numinous and magical.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, we're already off the deep end here. What if I at least tried to plant my flag in the sand and say, I'm going to take these pop culture icons and recontextualize them into my own collage as a way of taking it back?
Yeah. It reminds me, there was J.G. Ballard that in some of his short stories he would take celebrities and have like these, the one that's famous is Why I Want to Fuck Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that's a toe tapper.
And he had some issues with, I think it was Crash with Elizabeth Taylor. There were some fantasies about, having car crashes with Elizabeth Taylor. I guess it is. You're stuck with it. You can't get away from it. Even if you try to like keep your mind pure, you're gonna have like Britney Spears or whatever is gonna sneak through.
Yeah, and that ship has sailed. Like, it's too late for us now, and unless you've been like living in a monastery since you were like 10,
Yeah.
that's how it is, right? J.G. Ballard got a raw deal, because if he hadn't been put on the science fiction shelf back when he started, he would have got the Nobel Prize for literature,
Yeah.
like so many times over.
I'm just gonna say this because it made me think of it. There's a Christmas slasher movie called Christmas Evil. It's supposed to be, according to John Waters, the best Christmas slasher movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Really?
The evil Santa in that, his daughter in real life is Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
This is the pop culture thing that I will never, when I die, I'm on my deathbed, I will remember
So good.
Fiona Apple is in that movie. So, with that, you have a few.
Yeah.
You have a few more, and I won't hold you up too much.
Sure. And just in terms of your question, I think the best answer is make your own stuff, right? And it's like, if you watch a movie, if they were watching, you might see Tom Cruise jumping through hoops or whatever, but
Yeah.
if they were watching you, they'd see nothing. They would just see this inert blob, right? So I really think the answer is do something. And if you write a poem today, whether it's, whatever its merits, you did something nobody else can do. And what better way to push back against the bad guys, and what better way to celebrate being alive than doing something that nobody else can do, So this is a poem called Looking West on Cannon Street East. It's that time of year. A freshwater breeze drags junk mail and leaves past my stoop and all the way to Taco Bell and beyond. This used to be the classy part of town before electricity. These bricks are older than the Union Jack. Seasons change. The mayor forgets us. Absolution's out of town. Like conscripted grunts, we carry on with hard-won stoicism. Farther along, bronze tributes to our pioneering forefathers, the McNabs and McMasters, robber barons, sons of the gentry. We haggle over dimes as, out in the harbor, the future rests on her haunches with an all-knowing smile. Your guess is as good as mine. And this is called Weather Report. Unnoticed, Grace rolls in from the northwest, raining down on rubbin' tugs and cemeteries, the tenements with the asbestos and the live wires, that rich duke's house they turned into a museum, shawarma huts and money marts, raining down on the just and unjust with no questions asked. Anil Verma scratches to win like his life depends on it. Over his shoulder, his shadow is laughing at him. Moishe gets tagged by the new red light cameras. Adrian thinks of going back to school for something practical. And when things get tight, everybody stares into a glowing screen. We have at least that much in common. Dean's on his knees again, hoping Jesus grades on a curve. 0% financing, half off, 1 day only. It's raining harder now, down the graffiti-stained plywood where the windows used to be, and something about how the walls meet the roof makes me weepy, jittery. Something is up tonight. We tighten our grip on our remote controls. Grace comes to town and we don't even hit pause as it rains all the way to the Erie Canal and down on a drafty row house sublet to a sensitive soul riding a crest of bad luck. Next to his toilets, a million-selling how-to book called Your Best Life Now. The author's incisors twinkle like stars. And this is a poem called No Strings Attached. Skateboarding down Wellington, trying to decide between Betty and Veronica, while nodding on a line of Chandler, the passing minutes like spent rockets, and marveling at the summer infestation of hawks, their shadows spattering the Sheraton as you come this close to finally outrunning your past, starting clean. You yell in triumph, skid along the curb, draw power from the musky sense of passers-by. Some pedestrians you recognize. Nabokov defined art as beauty plus pity, and today has plenty of both. Even if no one notices, and tattooed rage boy can't stop picking off the weak, the fearful, there's nothing to fear. Up ahead, they're riding jackhammers. That looks like a fun job. Kids laugh, savor their first swear words. A man kicks a parking meter, and you'd love to hug the whole downtown ward. It doesn't matter how they feel about it. The new mayor has big plans. Wish him well. Salute his make-work projects. Rock gardens, high-rise parking lots, flower beds, the languors of the lilacs, their spidery blossoms. Something good wording. Okay, forget that. This is a poem called My New Career. Behind the toxic vault of sky, ghost galaxies spin so slowly that it's hard to tell what brand of shredded mozzarella is the better value. Juggle grams into pounds inside my head, while Raytheon bombs wipe out whole bloodlines without ever trending on Twitter. The planets we could have colonized if we hadn't opened door number 3. The wish-granting genie that picked my lock slipped behind an altostratus cloud while I complained to the manager. No refunds or exchanges without proof of purchase. The customer used to always be right. Now he's a swing voter, arguing with the screen at the self-checkout and begging the simulation for a hug. The human resources manager called. I said, who needs a welder with shaky hands or a star that refuses to shine? They thought it was just a smudge on the lens before they counted the gravity waves. So many grudges and mismatched mittens out there. Without love, it's all just paperwork. And this is a poem called Phantom Stranger. The day we forgot to protect our passwords, there was all this beauty we missed out on. The fruit from that quince tree, tiny and tart, rolling along the sidewalks into the gutters. Shadows like vampire capes caressing the lawn. Smiling when you don't particularly feel like it is beautiful. So is light on red barns. Light biding its time out behind the Salvation Army where men patiently wait for a free hot meal. A cannibal dictator cries over his mother. An ex-girlfriend goes crazy trying to fix everything all at once. Revenge festers like cankerworm, like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi still seething over Spain's reconquista of Andalusia. The husband, so dumb, he's still keeping score. Beauty's like a phantom stranger, lurking behind potted plants, and always the last to leave the party. We fought over money, while rust ripped the door right off the hinges. Spun right around by American ghosts and Facebook likes, a hand reaches out, ties it all together. That's beauty. Eternally she calls to us. And this is a poem called Minimum Wage Dollarama Express. Hailstones on the roof making that popcorn popping at the Tuesday matinee sound. The bus driver chugging Red Bull. The scarified rider remembers her last kiss. Panics, wonders when the next one will come. I try to read, but I'm stuck on page 17. The stone in the river, nestled in a collar of foam. I just can't picture it, like stars a-borning and dying without ever telling me, and even my dreams involve punch clocks. All those middle managers, I'll eternally regret not punching in the throat. And if I could, I'd push the button, blow it all up, start again, change my name to Tarzan, ride the Barton to the end of the line. But if I miss my stop, I get a second warning letter from the boss's nephew. Don't ever tell me my vote matters. And one more. This is called Fire Ant. Walking past the statue of our founding slaver, the gears and cogs inside me keep it down to a low hum, rise up to a steampunk's clanging screech when we pass the food basics, where bananas are 49 cents a pound because Chiquita Corp propped up dictators, tore down the rainforests, and here we are, fat yet still hungry, tied into Boy Scout knots over 2-for-1 specials and pension plan formulae. The beams begin to sag, even the wallpaper grows sinister. The words of the spell that would set it all right are long forgotten. Even on holidays, fire ants work so hard. The mass production tickles the amygdala like a big brother with a mean streak. Cracked rearview Caliban, air pregnant with Cracked rearview Caliban, air pregnant with tornadoes. Turns out the old maps got it all wrong. Greenland isn't nearly that big. The southern hemisphere got a raw deal. There's falling angels everywhere.
Yeah. I have one question.
A question, yeah?
I have one question. The thing about trying to read and getting stuck. Is that inspired by Lou Reed?
That song, Kill Your Sons, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, there was, I guess he after he had electroshock, it was, he talked about having to start over again, reading.
Yeah, I've always liked that song, and I've always liked how Lou Reed was the first guy who came to my attention who would really fearlessly mind the details of his own life.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of rung a bell.
And when I was writing it, I thought, well, Rufus is going to notice. So I did say page 17, which is what he says in the song. Actually, like, why not? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great song. It was a great.
It is a great song. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah. And you're getting off to, this is a working class, but you're going to work after.
I work from 11 at night till 7 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done the night shift. I've gotten to where I can't do it anymore. I'm probably about the same age as you, but I can't.
I worked night shift for over a decade, and then I took a break, and now I'm back at it. And it's bad for your health. It's not a good idea. I don't know.
It's probably good. It's probably good for writing. It's probably things that are bad for your health usually are good for writing.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.